Welcome back to Entropia. This is Sturge coming to you with episode 16. That is it. It's episode 16 already of Profitable Mining in the Entropia universe. Today I want to cover a real basic topic and be quick about it. It's about the default ore and end matter. Default ore is Lysterium, default end matter is oil on most of the planets. Now, on Cyrene, it's Zornstar and yellow crystals. So Zornstar is the ore, the end matter is yellow crystal. But we're only worried about, let's just worry about Calypso, Arcadia, and Rocktropia and so forth. And all I really want to do is demonstrate that, let's say, like I'm doing right now, I'm mining in my favorite area and I get copper. Or, or maybe I find Ignisium, and this is my spot for that. And I know it's always going to be copper and or Ignisium in this area. And so I'm just going to keep mining and hope to get as much of those resources as I can, right? So there we go, a couple of hits of Ignisium, a little bit of copper. But well, now what happens if I hit Lysterium? And then I keep hitting Lysterium over and over again in the same area. What's that indicating? Well, that indicating that you hit the resource cap for that area of Ignisium and copper. It's really that simple. There's only so much in a particular area, and if you just keep hitting Lysterium, that's the default ore. Or if you're mining for end matter and you just keep hitting oil, that's the default end matter. So you got to keep that in mind. So at that point, when you're just hitting Lysterium or crude oil in an area that you know there are other resources, it's probably a good time to quit. Unless, of course, you really want crude oil and Lysterium, then of course you might want to continue to do mine in that area. And who knows, the hit rate could go up, it could go down, it could stay the same. But if you're looking for markup or an end matter, then you got to move on from that area. And when we talk about areas, it's like there's a server, right? We have a server, and then we have a default we have smaller areas within that server that contain the resources. So there might be a resource cap only in that little area. One of the other interesting things that happens when you have, let's say, an area that is Ignisium and copper, then you go right outside of that area, right to the water's edge, and drop a probe, you're very likely going to hit Lysterium and oil. That's not always the case. There certainly are some places where that won't happen. But right outside the border of a private land area, if you drop on the beach, very often, specifically on Calypso, very often you're going to get Lysterium and crude oil. And that is the indication that you've left the local area. So it's sort of the way of proving to yourself that, yes, there's a local area where those resources are that are markup. And then outside of that, just outside the border, you're going to get crude oil and Lysterium because those are the default or an end matter. Okay, there's one more piece to this. What if you're mining in an area like this here by Seus, where all I'm getting is Lysterium? I'm 8 or 10 Lysterium hits, and then I get Kurtzstone. So I might be thinking, oh, well, there was no other resource in here but Lysterium, but it may in fact have been the case that the only ores and or end matters that I could hit here, I could only hit with a specific finder. In the case of Kurtzstone, the depth was an important factor there, as well as the finder that I'm using. So the finder was dictating what's going on in this instance. So you have to keep that in mind as well. So if you're just hitting Lysterium in an area, doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to find something else. It just may mean that the finder you're using and the depth you're hitting at is the indicator of why you're just getting Lysterium, because that's all there is down to 600 or 700 or 800 meters. So that's all the other side of that. So you can't just give up on an area because it's only Lysterium. You have to know better and change in different finders and or add depth enhancers and so forth. So there you have that. Try to keep that really simple, short, sweet, because that's all there is to it. There are resource caps in this game, and the markup ores and end matters definitely have those resource caps applied to them. And so you can see it when you're mining for them, and then suddenly you're hitting them, and then suddenly they disappear. Then you know that you've hit the cap. So Thank you all for watching. I appreciate everybody who subscribed. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I will see you soon. Ciao.